Another fascinating weekend of Premier League football with Manchester City and Arsenal both losing on Saturday. Alan, you were with Righty doing Premier League productions, Newcastle against Arsenal. That must have been quite interesting. We saw he was in a wheelchair. How is the old boy?
He was bossing everyone around because his knee's still a little bit sore. If he's not in his wheelchair, he's hobbling around on his crutches and get me this and get me that and fetch me this. And he was in great form, but the result didn't help him at all. It was great to be sat with him on a Saturday when Newcastle stuffed them.
What? Fuck off.
It was only 1-0.
Fucking shut your mouth.
We love you, Righty. We love you.
And I know you were watching Match of the Day, Alan, because I hear you texted our editor after, because we put that. Now? Yeah, well, of course you did, because you got more mentions on Match of the Day than you do when you're actually on the show.
I was watching it, yeah. Good show, lads. Good show.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thank you very much. I thought you might be watching with Newcastle when some fireworks are going off. It must be close to November the 5th. You can perhaps hear them in the background. It was an interesting day's football yesterday. Manchester United, Chelsea. We've just finished watching that.
Probably a fair result in the end. I thought if possibly Chelsea might have edged it, but I thought both teams were really poor in forward positions. In fact, it was a very bitty, sloppy game, wasn't it? Standard.
It got better once there was a goal, as it often is the case, didn't it? Got a bit more end to end.
Yeah, with about 20 minutes to go, so it got a little bit more exciting. But up to that point, it was pretty dull, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very dull. I look at Man United and I'm thinking, okay, Ruud's been there. He's a leader. He's a legend at the club, and they look like they've put in a little bit more effort since Ten Hag. But there's such a disconnect between the midfield and Højlund up front. So they drop really deep. Højlund stays up and wants to be the target man, and he does well trying to hold up the ball. Then there's nobody around him. The only option they have is to play wide to Rashford or Garnacho and then just gamble. There's rarely any build-up play. Fernandes starts too far forward and he can't influence a game with the ability he has. He should start a little bit further back, get involved in the play and then look to get in the box, because I thought Caicedo was outstanding today. I thought he ran the midfield. I thought Lavia was good as well. But there's just a massive disconnect between the backline, the midfield, and Højlund up front. And I thought with Van Nistelrooy sort of taking charge, we'd see a little bit better win the league. I know they had a good result in the League Cup, wasn't it? But in terms of the league, I just think the new manager got
a big job on his hand, hasn't he, Micah?
He's got a massive job. Yeah. He's got a massive job.
Even the pressing, even the lack of when, how, who to go and what have you with Man United. It's like, I mean, I don't know. It looks to me as if they just really haven't done any work on that, because no one really understands how and when to go. You know, he's got a lot of work to do. The new manager, when he comes in what is it, a week's time?
Yeah. Where does he start?
Well, when you look at the number of goals they've scored, I think is it 9 now in the league they've scored. And you can see why they're struggling in front of goal. I know lack of confidence. He's got to somehow, because that's what he's got to work with until even January. Whether they can go out and improve in January, that's what he's got. He's got to somehow get them some belief and confidence, particularly in front of goal, because they've been terrible in front of goal. Up front, been awful all season.
Yeah, Rúben van Nistelrooy's come in. Obviously, they beat Leicester in the Carabao Cup in the week. I have to say it was Leicester reserves team. But nevertheless, that was a good victory. And then today you could see probably a little bit of hope. But I think it's a difficult position for him as well, isn't it? Then you come in there, you take over, and then you think to yourself, possibly, I mean, I don't know, he might have already been aware of the situation before Ten Hag, or immediately when Ten Hag lost his job, that it was only going to be temporary, and they've already lined up the new guy, because they clearly hadn't they? because you couldn't have done it that quick. So I just wonder what that's like, being in that role where you've only got kind of 2 or 3 games. I suppose you want to impress, could get a couple of good results in it. Do you think he'll keep him? Do you think he'll stay there?
Well, I think, did I read that Amorim's bringing, was it 4 or 5 of his own staff with him? So whether there's space for Ruud van Nistelrooy there or not, we don't know. I know Ruud said that he perhaps wants to stay and be involved, but that depends on whether the new manager wants him in there or not, and whether it's a significant role or not, because ultimately, I guess, Ruud is a number 1, isn't he? I mean, he's had the taste of management. He's had another taste of it now. So I suspect at some stage, just a matter of when he goes out again and becomes a number 1.
Even with a new manager, even if he's really good, as you said, they've got a lot to do, haven't they? Cool. Because have they got the talent in there? Even if they're kind of, say, properly coached, if they've got a plan, and if it's hard to see, really, isn't it? How many of those players would be part of a team that is challenging?
They need a centre forward in, by the way, massively.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they have the talent. I really do believe it, because if you look at some of the signings, even going back a while, you get Paul Pogba in for a big fee. Everyone in Europe wanted him at the time. Maguire comes in. Manchester City wanted him at the time. Xerxes had a good reputation for where he played in Italy. Højlund, the same. You're looking at Bruno Fernandes, who's delivered, and another. So in terms of the players that they've brought in, I feel like they are getting the right players in. I think the problem that I see is a system. So that they're buying players just for their ability. They're not buying players for a system.
But they haven't had a really regular system to buy players for, have they?
Exactly. So the new manager, Amorim, likes to play 3 at the back. And I'm just wondering if that will help them in midfield areas where they can dominate the ball a little bit more. What the players have shown over the last couple of years, you would say they're not good enough for where Man United want to be. But I don't think necessarily that's the case. I just don't think they've had a system that suits the players well enough. It's almost like Rashford wants to be a striker one week, then he wants to be a winger. Are you playing Fernandes a bit deeper, or is he playing as a number 10? Martinez was branded too short to be a centre-half. He played a couple of games at left-back. Dallow's sort of like a utility player. Onana wants to play out. And Onana was an outstanding goalkeeper at Inter Milan. I watched him many times in Milan, but he wants to play football. There was times in the game today where he wants to play, but the defenders don't want the ball or don't know how to receive the ball. So I think for the manager, he's got a big job, but I believe the players can show more than what they are at this moment. But I still think they need to get some new additions if they're really going to kick on to the next level.
Keep on spending.
Yeah, I think they're better than what they've shown, there's no doubt. They're better than 13th to 14th. Oh, yeah. I don't think they're good enough, even if you've got a magic wand in there, to get into the top 4. I think that will have to wait, and he'll have to have some major surgery to achieve that. Yeah. What about Chelsea? They've got a way of playing. They know what they're doing, don't they? It probably wasn't their most scintillating performance, but they had moments. And overall, I thought, like you said, Mike, I thought Caicedo was probably the best player on the pitch. He's really come good, hasn't he, of late? Yeah, he really has. I think he's found his confidence. The Caicedo we saw at Brighton, I think it's coincided with Lavia coming into the team as well. Looks like they've got a really good partnership. And they've got Enzo to come off the bench as well. I think tactically watching Maresca, and you'll know a little bit more than me, guy, from his time at Leicester, but I really like the fact what he does with his fullbacks, whether it be Gusto, whether it be Cucurella, where they sort of build up with a 3 and have the fullback playing sort of a number 10 position. I thought Man United were there for the taking, and Chelsea couldn't really do enough to get the second and get the third goal. That would be my only worry. I think at times the tempo's a little bit too slow.
although Man United did defend in a low block at times. But in terms of where they were, even so, signs last season under Poch of them improving, I think they've had a really good start to the season, because this could have been chaos for Chelsea. I just think now they've got to a certain level where they're a good team. Yeah. Can they kick on again? And that's going to be the question.
No, I think he's done a really good job up to now. I still think there'll be anything between 4th or 5th and 7th or 8th, something like that. I think you'll see Chelsea up and down this season. One week you'll see how really good they are, and the next. But I just think that's where they are. But I don't think he could have done much more in terms of how long he's been there. I think they're slowly but surely improving. Managing, I know they're out of the Carabao Cup now, and he's swapping different 11s around for cup competitions, which is a challenge in itself. But yeah, I think he's done all right. I don't think he's done really well, actually. Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think, Cole Palmer, he was not as involved as some of the games, but there was still some silky little beautiful moves, including the one right near the end where he just controlled it, flicked it over Martinez's head, and then there was a little bit of talk of whether it should be a red card. I think a yellow was about right. I don't know whether you agree, but
it was a dangerous one. But I think yellow was probably right.
Yeah, amber, sort of amber, wasn't it?
Amber, yeah.
Amber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The earlier game, now that was entertaining. Tottenham against Aston Villa. I mean, Villa leading at half-time, of course. And you thought, well, Spurs are under the cosh again, but he changed one or two things, and God, second half, that was a breathtaking performance.
Before you talk about the second half, I'll let you go out, but how good is Morgan Rogers? Seriously.
I know.
Yeah, he's good, yeah.
He's ridiculous. From a player who's come from Middlesbrough, the way he drives the ball in midfield, and he changes direction so quick, and then he's got end product as well. I just thought, obviously, we don't normally talk about the losing teams and a player sort of standing out, but I thought in that first half he was really excellent again.
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he? Yeah.
He takes some getting off the ball when he's got it, doesn't he? And he goes
strong, isn't he?
Strong, holds people off.
Yes.
It was a big half for Tottenham, that second half, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think he's
really was.
I mean, his decisions sort of worked, didn't he? Postecoglou, he's not afraid to make decisions. I mean, leaving Maddison out and then bringing him on and him scoring. Slanky's goal was a brilliant one, wasn't it? Kulusevski sort of fed him in, and then he dinked the goalkeeper, and he got his second one. So it was a big half for Spurs, and I thought they were brilliant in that second half.
How much do we rate, or you guys as strikers rate Solanke? How good could he be?
I like him a lot. I think he's come on. I think he's been a slow developer, hasn't he, over the years? Didn't he? Struggled at Liverpool, but then, scored a lot of goals in the Championship. Then he came, and now at Bournemouth, he'd done really well in the previous season. Then it was obviously a big signing for Tottenham, and you wondered whether he could step up. Didn't have the greatest of starts, missed one or two chances early on. And the way he's come out of that and still score goals makes me think he's mentally strong enough for that role now. But I think his touch is good. He holds it up well. His movement's really good in the box. We saw that obviously for both his goals really, particularly the tap-in one. But it was the right way to. He gambled on where the ball might go. I think he's got a really, really good all-round game.
I would hope and expect him to get 20 goals at least this season.
Yeah.
Because of the way Spurs play and how many chances they create. I think for a forward, that's a really good team to play in, because if he can stay fit with the players you've got there, and how they whip balls into the box. I mean, even the first goal was a great example with Son whipping it in and Johnson getting on the end of it. I think with the way they play, he should be at least getting 20 goals this season.
You know who's cooking at the moment? Kulusevski.
Yeah, he is.
He really is. That role in midfield.
That central role, it suits him, doesn't it?
Yeah, get on the ball and thread them passes. Played well in the League Cup, didn't he, against Man City, and then again, I thought he was really good. He's sort of known as a dribbler more than anything. Especially when I was watching his clips, he was at Juventus, I think it was, in Italy, and he was a dribbler, and it was always sort of his final ball at times that was lacking, but this new sort of role, just sort of floating, really suits him.
It sort of means that he's had to leave Maddison out, doesn't it, as well? But he came up, what a free kick that was! A fantastic free kick. And yeah, I've said it many times, but they're really good to watch, Spurs, aren't they? It's very rare you see a poor game or a drab affair.
That's their problem, isn't it? Is that they have really one good result this week. They've got to go on a run of 6, 7, 8, 9 games now.
Well, Son wasn't happy coming off, was he?
He wasn't, was he?
He was really. It's funny because we always see Heung-min Son, don't we? He always seems like really nice and friendly and stuff. But he was effing and blinded on the bench there. He wasn't happy at all. He was, and when his number went up, he was like, "What, me? Me?
Yeah. I don't mind that, as we said. I quite like that. I don't mind. No. I like it.
I think we're all like that, aren't we? If you see a player that's happy to come off, then I'm not sure he's got what it takes necessarily. But
it was just protecting him, though, wasn't he?
Of course he was.
Injured, so it just protected him.
He's just come back from a few games. It's been a good week for Spurs, really, isn't it? Having lost to Crystal Palace, to bounce back with that really good win in midweek, as well in the Carabao Cup. Yeah, beating City. That's
they've
really
got to
impressive.
Keep on going now. They've got to turn that into 7, 8, 9 games now. That's what they've got to do. That's been their problem, hasn't it?
Aston Villa, obviously. Game completely, wasn't it, of 2 halves, and they were very good in the first half. You wonder whether perhaps their fixture congestion might catch up with them a little bit, fighting on so many fronts, particularly European football, and the fact that they've started so well in that. But then again, you just got to give a lot of credit to Spurs for the way they came back in that second half.
Yeah, agreed. Thought they were the better team and they deserved to win, Spurs. Yeah.
Let's turn our attention to yesterday's game. Where would you like to start, Alan?
Well, I reckon we should start with the tune. Shock.
Yeah, I think we're all singing from the same tune.
Great result.
And a much better performance, don't you think? Better energy levels and everything, Alan. Bit like
much
the old
better.
Newcastle.
Yeah, it was more like when they were qualifying for the Champions League. Hard to play against, great energy, a bit of nastiness, they were really good in their pressing, made it really difficult for Arsenal. And that was much more like it. I think Eddie had to make some big decisions in terms of his midfield. He left Tonali out, played Joe Linton on the left-hand side of a front three, and played Willock in the left-hand side of the midfield three. And I thought
he gives them energy, doesn't he, Willock?
Great energy.
He gives them energy, yeah.
Great energy. I thought Longstaff was fantastic as well. Yeah. What about the fucking goal, lads? Come on, the cross and the header.
Beautiful.
It was a thing of beauty, wasn't it? It was
like,
you.
I'm not sure it probably was for Righty sitting next to you. What was he like when that went in?
You can imagine when I looked at it. Oh, he's shouting, swearing, everything. He was going mad. He was, but he did say he thought the best team won and Newcastle deserved to win, and he was very disappointed in Arsenal, how flat they were and how they got sort of dragged down, and Newcastle didn't really allow them to play their game. So I thought it was a really impressive, really good performance from Newcastle.
Isn't it Righty's birthday today, Al?
Righty's birthday, it is, yeah.
Happy birthday, Righty, if you're listening.
Hey. He sat back. Scoring again's important, isn't it? It's
3 on the spin now. Scored last weekend and in midweek against Chelsea again. And the header was like it had to go in. The cross was magnificent, and his movement to get in between the two centre halves was great. And I'd absolutely loved that goal.
Would you stick with that team now, Alan, going forward? Because I was doing it on Match of the Day yesterday, just sort of talking about the balance of the team, and ideally would like Gordon on the left because I think he's a little bit more dangerous, but when he's putting in crosses like that from the right, the balance of the team as a whole looked a little bit stronger, I thought.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, I think that was key to how Newcastle played, the balance of the midfield and the balance of the front three. Joe Linton put a shift in on the left-hand side. I thought it was much better. And Eddie's been searching for that right balance, and he struggled to sort of find it. And I thought because of what happened on Wednesday night in the Carabao, Newcastle beating Chelsea, and there were signs then that the energy was back and everything that they were looking for, searching for, sort of, it was nearly there on Wednesday, and I thought if they could carry that into the game against Arsenal then, and they did that, and I thought, you're absolutely right last night, the balance looked spot on. So, yeah, I would stick with that. If everyone's fit, definitely.
What about Arsenal? I mean, there's a bit of a gap now. They've not been as consistent this season. Yes, they've had one or two injuries. I think they're really missing Martin Odegaard. I think he's a big miss for them, but they don't seem, they're not bang on it at the moment. All teams have a little sticky patch during a season, and, they can start winning again. They're certainly not out of the title race at the minute, but you tip them, obviously, Alan, for the title this season.
What is it, 7 points are behind Liverpool now? Is it 7 behind Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool, 5 behind City.
I thought they would go on and challenge. I'm right, he said it yesterday. You can't just say, because they're missing Odegaard and there is brilliance in midfield, which is what he is. I mean, they've got Rice in there, they've got Partey in there, you've got Havertz, you've got Martinelli, you've got Saka, you've got Trossard. I mean, you can't just say, we're missing Odegaard. So I think they've been really, really, really poor. I think they've been flat.
I agree with the statement. You can't just say they're missing Odegaard, but I think he's sometimes the link between. So Arsenal have got different ways of playing. Really good at set pieces. They've got really good defence with Gabriel and Saliba. And then you had Odegaard, who could sort of unlock the door. And then you got the brilliance of Saka. And I just believe now that teams are sort of... They know Saka is
They're doubling up on him, aren't they, a lot?
Both sides. And teams are now just doubling up or trebling up. And what would happen normally is if you double up on Saka... there's somewhere on the pitch free for Odegaard to make that killer pass. Trossard's a good player. He doesn't have the same influence, but he scores important goals. Martinelli's really good with his pace, running in behind. But Odegaard was the one that could see a pass from anywhere. And I just think that when Saka's not on it, he's missing his partner in there to create something. So I get it from both sides, but... Yeah, there's something just... we talked yesterday on the show as well about intensity. Man City looked a little bit off it. Arsenal looked a bit off it. Even Liverpool got the win, but they looked off it as well.
In the first half.
In today's game with Chelsea and United, it all just seemed a little bit flat. And I don't know if that's because of the amount of games, League Cup coming into it. They've got... Teams are in Europe again next week as well. But yeah.
Lewis Hall, by the way, yesterday against Saka was magnificent.
Really good, wasn't he?
He was brilliant.
Really good. Was your heart in your mouth at the end, Alan, with Rice?
I was thinking, oh no! Yeah. But thankfully it went wide.
It's taken a while for Livramento to kind of carve himself a place in the side, but I thought he was
really good as well.
Really impressive yesterday as well.
He was superb as well. I thought both fullbacks were outstanding. Yeah, Martinelli rarely had a kick, to be honest, and a lot of that was down to was Livramento. So, yeah, I mean he's when he's been in, I mean he's had tough opposition. I know Kieran Trippier, who's been great for Newcastle, he's out injured at the minute. So he's been in and he's been out and not really had the chance to say, this is my position. I think that time is now.
Been a long time since we discussed a defeat for them in the Premier League.
What's it been, 11 months or something? Yeah,
just about that, yeah. But you've got to give an enormous amount of credit to Bournemouth, and particularly Iraola. I think what a job he's done there. And they've got a real way of playing. They play bravely, don't they? It's so impressive what he's done, and obviously lost Solanke this season as well. But they've not seemed to suffer because of that.
Did I have Bournemouth going down on our predictions? Harry, please find them for me somewhere, please.
I think you might have done it. I think you've done it badly. What about me? I had Forest.
Honestly, you two are clueless. You haven't got a clue what you're going on about, you two.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't going to go the obvious one, Leicester, because I can't tip Leicester to go down, and I couldn't tip Everton to go down because I played for them, and I don't know, it was a moment of madness, but we'll come to Forest shortly. But
Bournemouth were outstanding. I mean, Kirkes at left back set up 2 great goals. Semenyo again, Evan Nielsen getting another goal. He's got them playing some good stuff, and they're tough to beat now, aren't they, Bournemouth?
I liked Nielsen up front, actually. I thought his finish was really good yesterday.
Clever.
It looked easy, but it was one of those where you just take the weight off it to keep it down and guide it in the corner. When we see so many players sometimes trying to hit them too hard and they fly over the bar. And we saw 1 or 2 of those in the Manchester United game. But yeah, they're really going well.
Tough.
Yeah, City had a sticky patch at this time last year, didn't they? I think they went something like 4 or 5 games without a win just before the World Club Championship, and then they came back and they were like they are generally in the second half of the season. So, but they without De Bruyne, without Rodri, it's not quite that kind of creativity. A little bit like perhaps Arsenal without Odegaard, would you say?
Yeah, exactly that. I think. Normally, when we talk about City having a defeat, it might be counter-attack. It wasn't that. Bournemouth had less of the ball. I think City had something like 60% in the second half, but it was just down to the way Bournemouth pressed. And Iraola talked about it when he first come about pressing high, but doing it with purpose. And then the next thing was to sort of manage it. And Man City just couldn't deal with it on the day. I just think they got beaten by a well-organised side who were on it from minute 1. But with City, I just never panic. I don't. No. They've got enough quality to get over these little bumps. There's no one really running away with the league. And yeah, once they get Kevin De Bruyne back and Grealish back and
Haaland was hobbling around, I thought. I thought he was limping around. He certainly didn't look right.
No, he didn't. I think he got whacked one as well, and he started hobbling for a while. But with City, he missed I wouldn't say it was a sitter, but a chance he expected him to score as well, on especially on the second one. But yeah, there won't be no panic from a City point of view, just because we've seen this story many times before.
Well, we have. I'm going to say something completely ridiculous here. Do you think teams are starting to perhaps work out a way of playing against Manchester City? We've seen it with like really quick counter-attacks and trying to get behind them, and I think that's a possibility. Obviously, you've got to defend, and you've got to defend really well against them because they're so good on the ball. But if you can beat that immediate high press that City operate, then it does give you a chance of going at their defence, which is always very high.
Well, I think the Rodri thing will be key as well, because we know how important he was. But I think, no, I wouldn't. I'd be like Micah. I think, okay, they've had a bad result. If it was anyone else, you'd think, well, is there an issue? When they've had 4 or 5, then come back and say, is there a problem? Because that's when you'll say it. But at the minute after 1, no panic.
Next 3 games, Brighton, Spurs and Liverpool.
The Liverpool game will be tasty.
Tasty. It will be, won't it?
Yeah.
That one will. Which moves us on nicely to Liverpool, really. At one stage yesterday, we'd had Arsenal already beaten, Manchester City losing and Liverpool losing. We thought, wow, all 3 of them. But, Liverpool, who were off the pace in the first half. They weren't their usual kind of dynamic, high intensity and all that sort of stuff. But again, you got to say to Slot, whatever, he did a couple of changes at half time, and they were a completely different side in the second half, back to that energy that we're accustomed to seeing. And in the end, they got the 3 points, and Slot continues to impress. And I saw the quotes. Did you see the quotes from Trent Alexander-Arnold talking about, I've got them actually, talking about his defending, and I've got them written down here. He said, right, second week that we're there, he says to me in training, can I have a word with you after training, Trent? He goes, here we go. This is when I'm going to get told I'm a terrible defender, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, I've got a few video clips you should look at. He goes, here we go. Here's where Anthony Gordon's roasting me. Here's where such and such is roasting me. He's got 50 clips of me in training. He said, this is a really good position. If you turn your body 8 degrees to the right, you've got a better chance of making a strong tackle than the way you stand at the moment. I was just blown away. It was all positive. So it's interesting. I remember Trent saying before to somebody about, someone said, well, you know, defending one-on-one and that sort of stuff. And I remember him saying, I've never really been taught to defend in that way, which seems madness and remarkable. But, you know, Slot's obviously come in and helped that side, because I've noticed in the last few games, I thought probably, you know, defensively, much better, because I think it's a lot easier to learn how to defend than it is to learn how to pass the ball like he does.
Well, it was a brilliant result for them again yesterday. They had to dig deep, by the way, because Brighton should have been 3, maybe 4-0 up at half-time, and they were only 1. And I said at half-time at that game, they're going to regret that, because there's no way Liverpool can be as poor as they were in the first half coming out in the second half again, because he would obviously change things around, and he did that. And then they were a different team, Liverpool second half, and then that man Salah again, I mean, didn't really do hardly anything, very similar to last weekend. You know, when he played Arsenal, wasn't it, when he scored that great goal? And then, I mean, you know, I was listening to you guys last night when you were saying about it. You shouldn't let him onto his left foot, but you also said it's all. How difficult is it to stop him coming on to what he wants to do? Because he is incredible at doing that, shifting it. And then once he's got you in that position, you're dead. He's just going to curl it in the corner.
But Alan, we put the graphic up last night, didn't we? Because Mo Salah went, I think it's 164 goals, isn't it, in the Premier League? And he went ahead of Robbie Fowler, former Liverpool player, a brilliant finisher himself. Now tell everybody the text that you sent to Richard, the editor, because Richard told us immediately, and I had it in my ear when we were. So go on.
I did. I sent Rich a text saying, can you imagine having that much ability scoring 164 Premier League goals? What a world-class player he is. He's amazing. What a dick I am.
Yeah, I think you also said, imagine scoring 100 goals more than that or something. Yeah.
How much you got 260 Prem, was it? Just to be sure, 260 Prem, was it? And how much are you in the league before that, First Division?
I don't know, 20 odd, I think.
Okay.
I got way more in that First Division than you did.
What did you get? What were your numbers, Gaz?
I don't know.
We don't talk about First
Division,
do we?
Don't say you don't know. Of course you know.
Well, I played abroad quite a lot, didn't I? So
that wasn't the question.
But I genuinely don't know. Harry's going to get on it now. He's going to do the numbers. But yeah, it's not bad. I did about 100 for Leicester and 70, 100.
Rich's response when he sent me a text message back saying to me, I really, really hope Harry Kane comes back to the Premier League and smashes your record.
He did. Mo Salah got a quote from him. He said, top of the table is where this club belongs, nothing less. All teams win matches, but there's only one champion in the end. That's what we want. Thank you for your support last night. No matter what happens, I will never forget what scoring at Anfield feels like. Now, does that sound a little bit like this is my last season, or is he just teasing us, or who knows? What do you think?
Yeah, there's a big chance it could be his last season. I think, obviously, with the contract situation, he's not signed yet. There were big rumours about him moving abroad last season, or in the summer in the transfer window. So
Saudi.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He is, though. I mean, all joking aside, what a great player, isn't he?
Oh, he's so good, so consistent. Player. Even when he's kind of off it a little bit, he does never let it affect his mental state in terms of his finishing. You were saying last night, Mike, on the show that Liverpool have got to find a way to get another couple of years.
Get it done.
But you can say that, but that has to come from him as well. He has to
I think he wants to stay.
Yeah, but hopefully.
I think he wants to break records. That's
why don't you ring him and ask him? You know him, don't you?
No, but I don't like to pry on people's personal, you know.
Yeah. Hi, Mo. I haven't spoken to you for a while. Are you signing another deal or not? Bye.
Ask him.
I just think he's outstanding. I think Gaz mentioned it, the consistency is the key. Not having to play all that well, but still scoring important goals. And I just think, from Liverpool's point of view, yes, every player can be replaced, but I still think he's got 2-3 years left at this level. Look at him. He's lean. He's in great shape. He's still working hard. He was quick, but he never really relied on pace to beat people. It was more just like his acceleration and then his finishing. So I think they've got to get it done.
Gaz is right, though. That's all right, you saying that, but he has to... I'm sure they want to sign him up, but it's whether it's him, 100%. Isn't it? Whether he wants to go and do whatever he has to do and make gazillions wherever.
Yeah, but Saudi's going to be there, just lastly, in 2 or 3 years anyway, isn't it?
Probably.
He's still playing at the top of his game now. That is the difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it will be down to him as well, of course. It always is this kind of scenario. Right, we're 10 games in now, aren't we? So who do you see as the favourites now for the title?
I would still say favourites City, just. Liverpool have been much better than I thought they would be. I didn't think they would be challenging. They are, there's no doubt. And I don't think they're going to go away. So, been disappointed with Arsenal, because I said Arsenal. But yeah, you would still say City favourites just because of... They've been around the block, haven't they?
I think so, because they've seen it, been there, done it 4 times on the bounce now, going for 5. You sort of wonder whether sure it catch up with them at some point. It's so difficult to keep having that kind of absolute drive that gets them over the line. But yeah, I would say that, Micah and myself tipped City at the start of the season, and I wouldn't change my mind now. And I think I would agree with you, Alan. Liverpool are genuine title contenders, and I think that has been a surprise, because following in the enormous shoes of Klopp was always going to be difficult, but he's done it like he's a perfect fit. He really has, and done it in a slightly different manner. Who do you see as favourites now, Micah?
Yep, I would still go with Man City, just because of their past, coming back from being behind in the league and putting a run together. They've got injured players out at the moment, and I would still say they're favourites. Just... No
one said Nottingham Forest for the title then.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. I mean, wow, what a season they're having. 3rd place after 10 games is an unbelievable achievement. And they're good to watch. They're dynamic. They're scoring goals. They've got goals from different positions. Chris Wood is in the form of his life.
Don't mention Chris Wood, honestly.
Oh, here we go, fantasy. We nearly went a whole episode, a whole show without mentioning fantasy. Harry's got his arms in the air next to me because he has got Chris Wood on his side, Michael.
I put him in 3 weeks in a row, and I've taken him out because Jimenez is a bit cheaper. And I would have to take out Trent to get Wood in for the rest of my team. And I just don't want to take out Trent. But Trent, for all his good defensive work now that you've been talking about, he's not getting me no goals or assists.
I know.
So he's got 1 more week, Trent, to get me something.
Chris Wood had a closing line last night, and we were debating. We had I thought it was quite cheeky closing line that Rich came up with, actually, but in the end he decided I was going to go with it, because it was what was it along the lines, Forrester up to 3rd and Nuno's got Wood.
That's brilliant.
So wonderfully childish, but in the end
he's in the form of his life, by the way, Chris Wood.
Oh, isn't he? I mean, he's
brilliant.
Yeah.
Tell you what, though, the 2 centre-halves are good as well.
Oh,
really good.
Aren't they? Yeah, which we did a bit on last night, didn't we?
Yeah, really good. On the other hand as well, by the way, I would be really worried if I was a West Ham fan. I don't think all's well there. Doesn't look well there, does it, West Ham? I mean, they were fortunate to beat Man United last week. Should have been 5-0 down at half-time. And the sending off yesterday and the way they folded... doesn't worrying times there. Doesn't look good for me at West Ham.
No, No, they're really struggling, aren't they? I mean, they're not in the bottom three at the present, but considering how not consistent, but they've been very steady, haven't they? In the last few years, won a trophy with David Moyes. Obviously, a change of management. They backed him in the summer, didn't they, with plenty of money? But it's not really happening for them.
Not good.
But Nottingham Forest, I mean, they deserve a lot. They deserve a lot of praise, and what a job he's done since he's been there.
Brilliant. Play some really good stuff. Got some good players. We've mentioned the 2 centre-halves, Gibbs White, Chris Wood. So yeah, they're flying. It's great to see. It's really good to see.
Refreshing. It's refreshing to see a club that
like it.
like that, like Forest, and
yep.
It was the same when Leicester were going really well. And hope he says through clenched teeth, hopefully they'll continue. I can't believe I tipped them to go down. What an idiot! Apologies to all Nottingham Forest fans. I'm a fool. But there we go. One little mention. Did you play with Damien Duff, Alan?
Cross
pass? You must have done
we did cross pass. He was in the Newcastle squad when I was manager for the 8 games. Yeah, because obviously he was at Blackburn and Newcastle, and then I worked with him for that short spell at Newcastle. Yeah.
Did you know he's just won the Irish League with Shelbourne?
Yeah,
as the coach. Yeah. So I thought that was worthy of a little mention.
Yeah, he's doing well there. He's done really well, hasn't he?
Damien Duff is a good player. What
about my old club and you're in Southampton as well, getting their first win?
Yes, worthy of a shout. Southampton. They've kind of gradually been improving. It's whether they've got enough firepower up top to be consistent enough. But they do play some really nice football that's worth watching. So that's it for today on The Rest is Football. We'll be back on Wednesday to answer your questions. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a great week.